Hello. I'm just going to do a short video. This has come up in regards to stress over with in different conversations with friends over the past couple days. And so I figured if it comes up with a grouping of us, maybe other people would benefit from this conversation too. And so what's come up is, especially in the winter time when we're already maybe feeling down, feeling a bit lethargic, and we're not getting the vitamin D we need, then all of a sudden, all of these other stressors start cropping up. The kids seem just a little more irritating. There's more problems that seem to surface. We'll feel more lonely, which in turn makes us question our self-worth or our identity, or if anybody wants to be around us. And so then our stress can begin to grow like a snowball and just really spiral out of control. And so I wanted to give some tools and kind of just equip you in dealing with that. So often what happens when we have a stressful moment, stress can be positive or negative, actually. Think of it as a spectrum, a continuum. And so on one end, you could think positive stressors, a wedding day, having a baby. Those are really big ones, right? But I mean, anything, eating ice cream. And then you have negative stressors on the other end, which, I mean, list those are easier to list, I think. And then in the middle is a more neutral point. So for me, grocery shopping is more neutral. It has to happen. It's not a horrible thing or a great thing. It just occurs. It consumes energy and it can take a little bit out of you. But when we have these things cropping up all day long, it's our tendency just to continue going on until we hit a brick wall, until we have a winter season, actually literally winter, or a more theoretical winter season where we feel like nothing we do is making sense, nothing we do has a benefit to it. And so in these conversations with friends, even if as we were talking, we realized even though we're doing a lot of the right self-care things, even if you're exercising, you're drinking enough water, you're trying to have positive conversations and positive thought patterns, we still have these stressors that surface and seem to come out of nowhere. Some people, it might reveal itself in anger, in avoidance. You don't want to be around anybody. It can reveal itself in different ways. And the most common way that we deal with stress, or we deal with the sense of being overwhelmed, is that we'll try to handle the thing that's right in front of our face. So if my child's refusing to go to school in the morning, instead of looking at the whole picture of everything else that's happening, that's my one stressor I'm focusing on. My kid's not going to school, and if they don't go to school, I'll get in trouble, and blah, 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 blah. And so for some people, your personality style, you can in fact deal with your stressors one at a time. You deal with the one right in front of your face, then you deal with the next thing in front of your face, and they don't seem to compile as much. For other people, and this is how I am, it's like a pipeline. And so we have 5 children and they use the toilet frequently. So sometimes the toilet gets clogged. Think of it like that. And so over time, your stressors, your positive and your negative ones, will fill up this tube, this pipeline. And at some point, it'll get clogged. It'll get bottlenecked. And so when it does get bottlenecked, nothing can go through. That's when we have foggy brain. That's when it's really hard for us to process our responses or how other people are feeling. And then we go to our root, our more lower brain functioning, because it's too much to process at the front of our brain. And so to be able to recognize that in yourself and say, am I feeling foggy brained because I haven't had enough water to drink? Or is this because I'm having a total backlog in my thinking processes? If it is, grab a pad of paper, and the best exercise you can do is list out all the things that come to mind initially. Now, if you're struggling with that because you have foggy brain because everything's stuck in the pipeline, a great thing to do is just start doodling, right? Just like drawing random weird little scribbles on a paper, because that starts the brain flow processing. Then after you do that for a bit, grab the first thing that comes to mind. Think of a recent experience that you had. dropping your kids off at school, picking out what you were going to wear in the morning, an interaction with a coworker or someone who lives in your house, and label that. Was it a positive stressor or a negative stressor or more neutral? What was the sensation? How did you feel? Now, we have feelings, which are emotions, but then also, how did that make you feel? Like, was it distasteful? Was it awkward? Was it, did you feel tightness in your shoulders? And try and identify what you experienced in that moment. Because when we deal with our experiences, we tend to deal with them from a third person point of view, like we're viewing someone else handling it. But in reality, we're dealing with the situation plus our experience of the situation, which in turn make it this double compaction that happens within our pipeline. And most things that occur in our days, we don't stop and press pause and think, how did that make me feel? What was my experience of this moment? So we have a lot of unreconciled experiences that take place within us. So my challenge to you is, if you're feeling overwhelmed right now with a cold, or if there's something else going on in your life and you just feel fog brain that you're having a hard time processing, get out a pad of paper, write out as many recent experiences as you can. It can be positive ones, like spending time with family at Christmas. It can be negative ones. It can be neutral ones. And even use that spectrum to plot out those experiences that you've had. And then try and label them. Was it how did you feel in that moment? What was the interaction like? And now some of them, you might have extra baggage left over from it. If so, put a star by it, press pause on it, and then you can deal with it later. And in doing so, that easy exercise will help to get rid of a lot of the mental thoughts and emotions and feelings that we have that are lodged in that pipeline. Once you do so, you'll be able to, say, approach a situation with your child or your spouse with a much clearer point of view, and which is always positive. So then the ones that you've starred that you need to deal with, pick a time that you're going to approach it when you feel like you can be clear-headed, when you feel like it's not going to push you over the edge into feeling overwhelmed. And something else I feel is really important is that in our winter seasons, whether actually winter as it is outside or just that season of our heart that we're going through, is that winter strips away the leaves and a lot of the fruit of things to reveal just what's left. And it can be really vulnerable to feel exposed in that place. And those are the moments that it is so important to give yourself love, to say, I am so important, even if I have nothing else to give right now, even if I have nothing to show in this winter season, because your roots are still growing. Your foundation is still being established. And that is so important to realize, that it's not a season that is wasted. So thanks for joining for this video, and I'll catch you next time.